changed my mind this morning after I had read that about 20 masked individuals marched downtown Nashville last night carrying swastikas. And the work, it's never done. And I don't feel light and airy. Right now, I just don't feel light and airy. And so I changed it to something different. I'm sure you know this. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. A long way from home. A long way from home. Well, sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. A long way from home. A long, long way from home. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. A long way from home. A long way from home.
Good morning. My name is Laura McGee, and I will be your service associate today. I'm so pleased to see so many people here. I believe that the work that we do as a community and what we stand for in this community and in this country are so important, and so I'm pleased to be part of it. We welcome you to this gathering hosted by the Unitarian Universalist Church of Bowling Green. Whether you are here in person or online, we are so glad that you are joining us. We ask you now that you set your cell phones to silent so that we can all be fully present with one another. We are a welcoming congregation. Whoever you are, however you identify, wherever you come from, and whoever you love, you are welcome here. Our Sunday services are different every week so that we can honor and learn from our wide array of traditions and beliefs. Today, our speaker is Ryan Dearbone, who will be speaking to us about the work of the NAACP nationally and in our community. And the NAACP is the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. All right. For Unitarian Universalists, the flaming chalice is a symbol of the light of learning and the love of our community. As our congregation's chalice is lit, we invite you to light your own chalice at home This morning, our chalice will be lit by Bella Mukundura. Yeah. Please join us in singing hymn 362, Rise Up, O Flame.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light, glory, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
Thank you. Thank you. This morning, Adam Wink will give us our opening reading.
Today, in the great rotunda of the Kentucky State Capitol, we gather not just to kick off Black History Month, but to reflect on the struggle, resilience, and triumph that defines African American history. It is a time to reflect on the past with reverence, to honor the present with dignity, and to shape the future with hope. As we stand in the shadow of history, let us recall the words of Maya Angelou. Bring the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. Let this celebration be a beacon of Martin Luther King's dream, a testament to those who came before us, and a promise to continue their legacy of courage, dignity, and unyielding perseverance. Together, in the heart of Kentucky, we pay homage to the indomitable spirit of Black Americans and pledge to uphold the ideals of equality and justice for all. Carlos Bailey, Bowling Green City Commissioner.
Please rise in body or spirit as we sing together, Oh, I Woke Up This Morning, hymn number 153 in the Gray Hymnal. I feel so lucky to be standing up here. Your voices are just beautiful. So at this time, we will have a unison reading of our covenant. You may read along aloud, you may read along silently as you wish. We promise to live in harmony and civility with awareness, tolerance, acceptance, and celebration of our diversity. We commit ourselves to enthusiastic support of our fellowship and Unitarian and Universalist tradition through our individual gifts and talents. At this time, we have a time for all ages. Ryan Dearbone is going to lead that. So, Ryan, I welcome you to the front.
Good morning, everyone. I will be reading Walking with the Wind. John Lewis was a great leader, a U.S. congressman and civil rights leader who died in July 2020. And this true story comes from his memoir, Walking with the Wind, Mr. Lewis tells about a time when he was playing outside his Aunt Savina's house with about 14 other children when a big storm, arrived. A kind of storm that made him very afraid. Aunt Savina was the only adult around, and as the sky blackened and the wind grew stronger, she herded us all inside. Her house was not the biggest place around, and it seemed even smaller with so many children squeezed inside. Small and surprisingly quiet, all of the shouting and the laughter that had been going on earlier. We were scared. Even Aunt Savina was scared. And then it got worse. Now the house was beginning to sway. The wood plank flooring beneath us began to bend, and then a corner of the room started lifting up. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. None of us could. The storm was actually pulling the house toward the sky, with us inside it. That was when Aunt Savina told us to clasp hands, line up, and hold hands. She said, and we did as we were told. Then she had us walk as a group toward the corner of the room that was rising. From the kitchen to the front of the house we walked, the wind screaming outside, sheets of rain beating on the tin roof. Then we walked back in the other direction as another end of the house began to lift. And so it went, back and forth, 15 children walking with the wind, holding that trembling house down with the weight of our small bodies. When John Lewis was much older, he was writing down the story of his whole astounding life. He wrote these words: "More than a half century has passed since that day, and it struck me more than once over those many years that our society is not unlike the children in that house, rocked again and again by the winds of one storm or another, the walls around us seeming at times as if they might fly apart. It seemed that way in 1960s at the height of the civil rights movement, when America itself felt as if it might burst at the seams. So much tension, so many storms. But the people of conscience never left the house. They never ran away. They stayed. They came together and they did the best they could, clasping hands and moving toward the corner of the house that was the weakest. And then another corner would lift, and we would go there. And eventually, inevitably, the storm would settle and the house would still stand. But we knew another storm would come, and we would have to do it all over again. And we did. And we still do, all of us, you and I, children holding hands, walking with the wind."
At this time, we invite the children to go to their own religious exploration. Please remain seated as we sing them on their way, the spirit of life. Oh, go now in peace. We will now have a few moments for meditation, reflection, and prayer. The singing bowl will lead us into silence. And after the silence, you are invited to join us in singing Spirit of Life, which is hymn 123 in the gray hymnal, and the words will be on the screen. As mentioned earlier, Unitarian Universalists have a wide array of beliefs, and the speakers at our Sunday services come from many traditions. Here to share their own thoughts today is Ryan Dearbone, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about him before he speaks. I want to invite you to get ready to focus because this is an incredible bio. So, Ryan Dearbone, a native of Hopkinsville, Kentucky, graduated from Western Kentucky University with a bachelor's in broadcasting and a master's in corporate and organizational communication. After having worked 8 years as a multimedia journalist at television stations and as assistant director of the nonprofit Community Education, Ryan returned to his alma mater, WKU, as a philanthropy officer. Currently, Ryan is an assistant professor of broadcasting in the WKU School of Media and Communication. Ryan is very busy in the Bowling Green community, serving currently as the president of the Bowling Green Warren County NAACP, chairman of the Life Skills Board of Directors, chairperson of the Bowling Green Code Enforcement and Nuisance Board, chairperson of the Community Education Board of Directors, co-faculty advisor of the WKU chapter of the National Association of Black Journalists, and is a member of this chapter's academic task force. He has been honored as a Bowling Green Trailblazer, a recipient of Nick and Pat Kefoglis Diamond Award by the NAACP, a recognized Kentucky Colonel, a member of the 40 Under 40 by Bowling Green VIP Magazine in 2022, and was named 2022-23 Alumnus of the Year by WKU's Department of Communication. In his spare time, Ryan is an avid runner with 19 marathons to his credit. He also loves spending time with his beautiful wife, Bonita, and 2 amazing daughters, Echo and Legacy. One other note, Ryan serves along with Diane Lewis, also here today, front row, and our UU Church on the Warren County Voter Project. Welcome, Ryan.
Hello again. So now some of the things on the bio sound really impressive, but I promise you some of those things, like Bill, who is our membership chair for the NAACP, knows, they do all the heavy lifting. I just show up and try to say something that's somewhat meaningful, so. But no, I am truly humbled and honored to be asked to be here today. So to talk a little bit about the NAACP. And the NAACP locally as well as nationally, the work is so expansive that it's going to be hard to try to encapsulate all of it over the course of my allotted time. So I won't try to do that. But what I will try to do is kind of give you a brief overview about what we do nationally, what we do locally, what we have done, and kind of where we're going. So I'm a really big sports fan, so I'm gonna start off with a sports analogy to kind of set the table. So whether you're a casual sports fan or one of those, die-hard, hardcore, you tell your significant other, the game is on, I'll see you in a couple hours. Even if you're that type of person, you may have noticed that the sports that we love don't tend to change much over the years. Now, the objective of basketball is still to get the ball in the basket. The goal of football is always to get the ball across the line to score a touchdown. A runner, like my wife, an amazing runner, much better than me, by the way, just so we're all clear on that. The runner's job is to cross the finish line before anybody else. Now, there are changes that are made to the game, whether it be through technological advances, cleaning up the sport for more fair play, or finding ways to make the sport more enjoyable for both the fans and the athletes. I'm a Raiders fan. The tuck rule from about 20-some years ago still hurts me, but the NFL fixed that. They cleaned it up. Didn't get us a Super Bowl ring, but that's neither here nor there. But the thing about it is the game truly never changes. The game still remains at its core the same. And because of that, I like to use that metaphor to talk about civil rights. Because, in my opinion, the game never changes. The rules of the game adjust over time. The activists, the people in the fight, come in and out. But the fight for equality and justice, the struggle for human decency, and the hope for love and tolerance remains unchanged. So this has been the guiding star of the NAACP since its inception 115 years ago. Our national anniversary was actually this past Monday. So we get to celebrate 115 years. Our local branch has been in existence for 105 years, with our charter date back on February 2nd, 1919. So whether it's on the national level, the state level, or the local level, the NAACP, we've weathered many storms and we've fought in many fights. Some of them you've heard of, and some you're probably familiar with, and some that you may never hear about. But it's all about the sole purpose of securing freedom and equality for everybody. So I'll give you just a brief history on the NAACP nationally and locally before I shift into where we are now and where I believe we're going. So, and if you are interested in joining the NAACP, again, that man over there is the one to see. He is our membership chair and doing a masterful job at it. So the NAACP was originally founded in 1909 by a group of both black and white individuals, namely Ida B. Wells, W.E.B. Du Bois, William English Walling, who is from Louisville. So a lot of people don't know that we've had a connection to the NAACP here in Kentucky since its inception, and Mary White Ovington. The group came together after seeing the abhorrent Springfield, Illinois race riots just the year before. 2 black men had been arrested as suspects in a rape and attempted rape and murder. The alleged victims were 2 young white women and the father of one of them. So when a mob of white people who wanted to lynch these men found out that the sheriff had transferred them out of the city, the group attacked these neighborhoods, the black neighborhoods, and murdered black citizens on the streets and destroyed black businesses and homes. The state militia was called out to stop the rioting. I believe they said in terms of destruction now, it would have been $4 million worth of destruction to those communities. This intersected with a group of black intellectuals led by W.E.B. Du Bois, who called themselves the Niagara Movement. They called for civil rights and political rights for African Americans. So once the NAACP was started in New York, they quickly went into action. It's because of the NAACP that the grandfather clause was abolished in 1915. So this allowed white people to not to have to take a literacy test in order to vote, whereas blacks had to take this same test, mainly because they believed that giving this test to blacks, African Americans who weren't as educated, they wouldn't be able to pass, and therefore they wouldn't be able to vote. The NAACP's chief legal counsel, Thurgood Marshall, successfully argued Brown versus Board of Education. The NAACP helped to pass both the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act of the mid-60s. The NAACP was able to shut down the Jim Crow laws, which basically effectively said that we couldn't all be in this room together at the same time. We couldn't use the same restrooms. We couldn't work together, live together, enjoy life together as a people, because there was something that separated us and said we couldn't all be together. Locally, our NAACP was started at what was then called Cumberland Presbyterian Church, but it's now known as Cecilia Memorial Presbyterian Church on College Street, so right over there by yes, right on the square. That's where we initially started. So we officially received our charter on January 1st, 1920, during a celebration of the Emancipation Proclamation anniversary. Since we've been around, our fight has, and this is talking about locally, has included fighting back when the Ku Klux Klan came to town, when they wanted to have a place in our downtown to spew their language, to talk about why we all should not be together as one. We had a counter rally. We had a counter rally that brought more people and basically told them, we don't believe that. We don't believe that we can't be together. We fought against unfair housing practices and discrimination in all forms: age, gender, race, socioeconomic, education, you name it. We are fighting against it. So let me get back to the topic of the game never changes, so that I can get us to where we are now and where the NAACP is going and how we can all be a part of it. The game of segregation hasn't changed, although it's been altered. Let's put that out there. Racism, classism, sexism, and other types of discrimination haven't gone away. They've just changed forms. At first, blacks were seen as animals and as property until that became outlawed. Then the rules adjusted to say that, okay, you're human-ish, but you aren't allowed the rights of others because of your skin color. Once that hurdle was seemingly cleared through bills like the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, discrimination has moved to the classroom, the boardroom, the courtroom, and even legislative rooms. Basically, while it's not okay to own a person anymore, it's not okay to physically harm people who are different than us. We can still find other ways to oppress and segregate, is what a group believes. From 1920 to 1938, the NAACP's New York office would hang a flag outside its window that read, "A man was lynched yesterday." And that was done to remind people that even though many people thought this practice had become extinct through the abolitioning of slavery, it was still very prominent in the United States. So think about that. In the 20s through the 30s, people were still being hung. The game hadn't changed. As the push for civil rights grew in the 50s and 60s, the counter movement sought to end it. So the NAACP, along with others, took to the streets and marched. They marched when it was hot, when it was cold, when they were staring down the barrels of guns or faces full of tear gas and other weapons. But they persevered to show everyone that the game of injustice hadn't changed. When people's voices were being silenced by gentrification and other means of manipulation, the ballot box became an unmistakable voice for everyone, including the oppressed. Many times we see injustice as an overt thing, where someone will openly and loudly discriminate against you. But many times it's not that. It's the subtle things that are said or done to make someone feel or believe that they're inferior. That, to me, can be the most dangerous type of discrimination and segregation there is. And I've always said, I'm not worried about the person who is blatant in their dislike of me or of others, because I know how to navigate around them. I know how to work with them or be able to have conversations with them. I'm more worried about the person that sits quietly, not saying anything, because that is the person that can do me the most harm. So during the few decades we've seen more struggles with this, because as the game doesn't change, the hearts and minds of those who don't believe in equality don't change either. Microaggressions, DEI fatigue, misinformation, and politicizing of moral issues have seemed to become more prevalent. Racism, sexism, human rights, and other areas of our lives are not political. These things are not political. At the core, they are moral. That has always been part of the game, to confuse and to abuse the system, that these things are political. We all know, we all have a moral compass. And what we choose to do with that moral compass is up to us. Not to a law, not to a politician, not to anybody else, but to us. What are we going to do? So the NAACP has increased its scope over the past few years to work on issues involving the LGBTQ+ community, those within our prison systems, the homeless, our veterans, and other underrepresented and underserved groups in our communities, because we know that if we aren't serving everyone, we're really not serving anyone. The NAACP nationally has taken up the mantle of civic engagement. That's been our platform for the past, I'd say, about 6-7 years. Civic engagement. We aim not just to be a group when you see us, it means trouble's coming, but rather we're a group that's woven into the fabric of our community. Currently, there are more than 2,000 NAACP units around the country doing the work of civil rights activism. Locally, the past few years have been busy for us. Bill, I think you can attest to this. From navigating civil rights work through the pandemic, which is, pandemic's hard in itself, but having to deal with civil rights actions through that, especially the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. Between that and the Emmett Till accuser coming to town and having to deal with a divided community, even a divided black community, what should happen to her? Should there be justice for Emmett in this space? Are we the ones to provide it? Definitely a situation you never think you would find yourself in. And then the Breonna Taylor officer, Jonathan Manley, who came to town and created a stir at Anna's Greek restaurant. Our unit has had to speak out on many issues, knowing that blowback was coming, knowing that what we say will not sit well with everybody, but it's our duty as an NAACP to say something. We are a nonpartisan organization, but we are very politically active. We currently speak out on, right now, what we feel are bad bills in Frankfurt that threaten the concepts of DEI both at the K through 12 level as well as higher education. It's our belief that these bills further prove that the game never changes, that there are ways to talk and have these interracial, intergender, all these different conversations without passing laws to outlaw it. We've also been outspoken in trying to get more voter polling places in our community. There are too many people in this community that either don't have access to or have accessibility to voting places and voting information. And when I say access and accessibility, there are people that have access to vote because they are citizens, because they have the ability to fill out the form and be able to vote. But not everybody has accessibility. Not everybody can get in a car and drive to a polling place. Not everybody has the time because their job won't allow them or because they're physically not able. So there's a difference between access and accessibility. And working along, thank you all for working on this with us, the Warren County Voting Project. We want to make sure that there is both access and accessibility for every person here in Warren County. So I've gotten a lot of critique and flack from people that say the NAACP, we don't march in the streets like we used to. So if you were watching TV in the 60s or the 70s, or you watched old footage, you usually saw the NAACP out there with their banners, their flags, basically out there front and center. And people in this community and other communities, we've had the same conversations. Why isn't the NAACP out there marching now? It's not because we don't believe that open protesting works, because we know open protesting does. It helped to get us to where we are now. But sometimes the work that we do needs to be done through different channels, and sometimes it needs to be done behind the scenes. So we've been coined the oldest and boldest civil rights organization in America. So we are still bold. And as you see, we're 115 years old, so we are still old. But we do have the ability to alter the game in order to make the most positive impact possible. And it doesn't always have to be front and center where you see exactly where we're going and what we're doing. So where are we now? We're fighting on all levels through the NAACP to better educate people on what is going on nationally and locally. One of the things we find is there is a lack of education about the issues that affect us as a people. I will gladly admit, there's things that I'm uneducated about that are going on in this community right now that if I knew about it, I'd be like, oh wow, how are we letting this happen, or why is this not being talked about more? A lack of education leads to fear. And a lot of what we see in terms of segregation and discrimination is fear. It's the fear quotient. The more fear that can be drummed up, the more people will act without thinking about the long-term concepts of it. So if we can show people what's going on around them, then maybe we can better educate them and advocate for change. So we're also fighting for education in terms of our young people. Locally, we give out scholarships to high school seniors because we believe that their education matters. Black or white, Hispanic, Asian, it doesn't matter. If you apply for the scholarship and you meet the criteria, you get the scholarship. So if you've ever attended our Freedom Fund Gala, or if you plan to, cheap plug, this year's gala is Saturday, October 19th at the Carol Nicely Center, and we can get you some more information about it. So if you haven't been, it's a great experience. I highly recommend you come. The money from that event goes to our scholarships to empower these young people. Because, again, these young people are the leaders of the future, and if we don't invest in them, we might as well stop what we're doing now, because people invested in us and got us to this point where we're at right now. So, how can you help? We need your help to help change the game. Obviously, looking at your principal beliefs, they align with many of the NAACP's. And when I was going through it, I was like, that's an important thing, that we all are in alignment in what we believe and what we think and how we can come together to create unity and not separation. We can find synergy in creating places and opportunities to level this playing field. So whether you are a member, become a member of the NAACP or not, we need your voice in the fight for equality. I've always believed that silence equals complicity. If you're willing to be silent about something, you're willing to let it happen. And if we continue to remain silent, the game will never change. The game will stay the same. The players will still play the same way they have in the past. But when voices are heard at a deafening tone, things have no choice but to change. Going back to the sports analogy, when you look at how many football players, basketball players, baseball players have been hurt while training or playing a sport, when only a couple of athletes say something, sometimes things change, sometimes they don't, because they say, well, it's only just a couple of people that they're just saying something because they want attention or they just want more money or whatever. But when a chorus of athletes get together and say the exact same thing, the leagues, the owners of the team have no choice but to respond. They have no choice but to make change. And that's what our goal is, to be the chorus of change. So what does that look like in 2-3 years? I don't know. Because equality, it's a moving target. First of all, what I see as equality may not be the same as what you see. Achievement may not be the same. So, for example, before I sit down, a lot of people thought because Barack Obama became president that black people had finally made it. That can't get any better, this is it, this is what you had been fighting for. But then you look now, yes, we have a black president, but had a black president, but at what cost? That does not equate with getting to the top level. What we have to do is show everybody that it doesn't matter, black, white, man, woman, whatever, that equality is something that is consistent and is fair for everyone. If we can't do that, then we're not doing our jobs. And that has been what the NAACP has been working to do for decades, for over a century. What our work looks like locally and nationally in the next 2 or 3 years, we'll figure it out as we go. And as issues arise, we will hopefully be there, and we will stand in solidarity with anybody who needs us. And that's all we can do. And again, I just want to thank you all for your time. Thank you for your attention. And I pray that something I said was at least somewhat beneficial to you all. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Ryan. That was awesome. Yeah. Okay. So at this time, we will have our offertory. And I want to take a moment to explain. This community is supported by the pledges of members and friends, and the gifts that we give. On the third Sunday, we have a third Sunday beneficiary. And that means when we do the offertory, everything that is not marked as a pledge goes to the beneficiary that I'll be talking about right now. So the third Sunday beneficiary is the Kentucky Unitarian Universalist Justice Action Network, also called CUJAN. It is a statewide network seeking to A, help develop the capacity and confidence of UUs in Kentucky, both congregations and individuals, to engage in meaningful justice activism and to be a voice for justice statewide. Since its inception, CUJAN has sought through education, advocacy, lobbying on all justice issues related to democracy, race, LGBTQI equality, indigenous peoples, climate, and reproductive health. Several of our members of this congregation currently serve on the democracy team. The February all-network gathering will be this Tuesday, February 20th, from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Central. For this month's Zoom gathering, there will be a short update on lobbying efforts with the legislature and what you want from a statewide network as the board plans for the future. This is UUs representing UUs. Please attend if possible, and today we ask that you give generously as you are willing and able. So our total collection, unless designated as pledge, will go to help assure CUJAN's sustainability.
Them that's got shall get, them that's not shall lose. So the Bible said, and it still is news. Mama may have, Papa may have, but God bless the child that's got his own, that's got his own. Yes, the strong gets more, while the weak ones fade. Empty pockets don't ever make the grade. Mama may have, Papa may have, but God bless the child that's got his own, that's got his own. Money, you got lots of friends coming around the door. When you're gone and spending it, they don't come no more. Rich relations give crust of bread and such. You can drown yourself, but don't take too much. Mama may have, Papa may have, but God bless the child that's got his own, that's got his own.
wisely in the service of our congregation and our community. So at this time, we have community news. And we've got a number of items here, lots of things happening. Okay, so the fellowship hall is closed till further notice. We have a maintenance issue that we're working to resolve. We have a congregational meeting coming up next Sunday. It is after the service. It's about 12:30 in the sanctuary, so here. You are invited to come. Members, friends, guests who are curious, we welcome you to the congregational meeting. Important. So there is a video presentation, a watch party on the bridge between agriculture and the environment. And then we have the Kujan All Network Zoom that I mentioned just a couple of minutes ago. We have a game night coming up on Saturday, February 24th. Wonderful opportunity to socialize and get to meet people. And next Sunday service, what else is possible? Shaping and sharing new worlds with speaker Rachel Rogers, who will be with us for that. Okay. We have the opportunity for a community. This is a sign up for a course. The course is Our Attitudes and Knowledge About Death. I've been asked to say a couple of things about it. It will be taught by Terry Bogle-Smith, who's here today. Yes. And Kay Witt. Kay, if you'd raise your hand. And John Downing. John, if you'd raise your hand. This involves 8 meetings. It's usually once a month, lasting 1 to 2 hours per meeting. The times and dates are to be worked out with the participants. So Terry and Kay and John ask that you speak to them, and in particular, John Downing has a sign-up clipboard with him, and he would love for you to sign up so that they can begin to identify a group of participants and get that course started. Also, circle suppers. If you have not yet signed up, I really encourage you to do this. When I was new at this congregation, I signed up for circle suppers, and it's a great way to spend time over a meal, in a home, getting to know each other a little more deeply. So I encourage you to do that. And you got the email address right there. Kay Witt is coordinating that for us, and Kay, you can raise your hand one more time. So really encourage you to do that. I have already signed up myself. So, okay, today we have a conversation and refreshments in this building here in the lobby. I see lots of wonderful snacks all ready for us and some things to drink. So you are invited to stay for that after the service. Did I get everything? I think so. So at this point, I want to issue an invitation to learn about membership. And if you have questions about Unitarian Universalism or about joining this congregation, please speak with a member of our membership team or our board president, Roxanne Spencer. Roxanne is here today in the center back. You can also email Roxanne at president@uubgky.org. As always, you can find more community news by reading the monthly email newsletter and the weekly email updates. So if you're not getting that, we encourage you to sign up for that. Here at the church, you can look at our bulletin boards. We have a really nice one right out this way, lots of info on it, and a beautiful website, and our Facebook page and Facebook groups are also available to you. So we have a final hymn, and Forrest is going to introduce it.
And the pronunciation of this, am I on? Did you turn coming up? Oh, am I not mean to? I don't know. Am I there? I'm live now. Ziahamba Kukanyen Kwenkos. I'd like for you to say this with me. I remember singing this for many, many years, and Brian finally taught me the correct pronunciation to say it. It's Ziaham Ekukanyen Kwenkos. Say it with me. Ziaham Ekukanyen Kwenkos. Ziahamba Kukanyen Kwenkos. And we're going to sing that with those words for the first verse, and then we'll be marching, then we'll be singing, then we'll be dancing. And Matt, we'll be walking at the end too? Do you know? I'm not sure. You're not sure. But here's what I want to say, is that anybody who's on this side of the sanctuary knows how I butcher words on a regular basis. So, you know, do your best. And we will start. Please stand as you are willing and or able. Please. We are marching in the light of God. 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 We are marching, marching. We are marching, marching. We are marching in the light of God. We are marching, marching. We are marching, marching. We are marching in the light of God. We are singing 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 in the light of God. We are singing, singing. We are singing, singing. We are singing in the light of God. We are singing, singing. We are singing, singing. We are singing in the light of God. We are dancing 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 in the light of God. We are dancing, dancing. We are dancing, dancing. We are dancing in the light of God. We are dancing, dancing. We are dancing, dancing. We are dancing in the light of God. Walking. We are walking in the light of God. 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 We are walking, walking. We are walking, walking. We are walking in the light of God. We are walking, walking. We are walking, walking. We are walking in the light of God. See a humble last time. We are humble, Kukanyen Kwenko. See a 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 humble, humble, see a humble, humble, see a humble, Kukanyen Kwenko. See a humble, humble, see a humble, humble, see a humble, Kukanyen Kwenko. Thank you. You may be seated.
This morning at a wink will give us our final reading.
Commit yourself to the noble struggle for equal rights. You will make a greater person of yourself, a greater nation of your country, and a finer world to live in. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
We now bid farewell to those who have joined us online. We hope that you found this service meaningful, and we invite you to join us again, either in person or online. Be well and go in peace.